right, so let's finish this function. So we are doing it so we can, of course, test all the buttons and everything else. That's why we are doing it. So I'm gonna do const random. We're gonna do something simple, not too complicated. I'm gonna add just a random number between 100 and I don't know 1, for example. So I'm gonna bring random open and close. We're gonna multiply it by 100, and then we do plus. We're just gonna get a simple random number. Then of course we need to update state, and again we would do this just like the way we would with React for web. So I'm gonna do prev state, and this one open and close, and we are gonna return the state for random, of course. What are we gonna do? We're gonna put whatever we have inside previous state dot and then random, but we're gonna add the random. This is one way to do it. Of course, there are a lot of ways to do this. If I reload the application and I click it, we get a random number. Of course, I'm not teaching you anything new. We know that this works. Now, if I go to generator, we can see that we are using the touchable with feedback, and we know that we can use the button. If you remember, we had other choices. Let's go back to the documentation. So right now we are using this one, but then we have other three. So these ones are pretty much the same than the touchable without feedback, but they are a little bit different. Let me just show you why. I'm going to go to the touchable highlight. No, first I'm going to go to the opacity one. So I'm going to copy this one, and of course this is a different component than this one. We need to import it at the top. And I'm going to copy all this, and I'm going to replace it with the touchable opacity. All right. Now, if I go to the simulator and I reload it, okay, so, that's different. So first we get the styling, and then if I press it, we get an opacity. And that is why we get touchable opacity. Every time we touch it, it's going to do that, effect. Now, the other difference with this one is that this touchable opacity will have all the props we get with touchable without feedback, but we get some other additional props. For example, we can add styles, or we can, change some properties about the opacity. So what we can do with this, for example, if we have access to styles, is that if you want to do this, we could just remove the view and say that now this is the view, the main view, the touchable opacity. And this will just, will create the same example we had before. It's getting the styles because now we can add styles. So again, it's pretty much the same that the touchable without feedback, but we can use it as a kind of a view component, and we can add styles. That's the difference, and the opacity, of course. Then you get the highlight. So the highlight, it's going to be pretty much the same than the opacity. We still import the props from feedback, but what you get, and this is something that you get by example. Let me just copy at the top, touchable highlight, and open close. Let me just copy paste and reload the application. So what's going to happen if I tap it? That's what we get. That is the difference. We get highlight. That's why it's touchable highlight. All right, that is the only difference. Of course, you get some other props to just modify what you get right here. So then we have the other one. It's called touchable native feedback. I'm not gonna show you this one because it's pretty much the same that the other ones, but this one contains some information that we could use on Android. It has some kind of a feedback information about that only works on Android. And that's it. That's the only difference. All right. Okay. So right. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna do the opposite of this. I'm gonna reload the application. I'm gonna, of course, maybe add some numbers. Now, if I tap on this one, I want to delete this component. All right. So let's do that right now. Okay. So let's do real quick. I'm gonna go to the app.js. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a function just like we did with the on at random. And I'm going to say on item and then delete. Now, let me modify the I. No, real camel case. So open and close. And we're going to run a function. For now, I'm just going to do alert delete just to make sure we are passing the function. So I'm going to copy the name and I'm going to go to the list items, and now we are passing the list. So now we're going to pass a function as props, and I'm going to call this one delete. So this dot on item delete. Every time we trigger this prop, we're going to trigger the function. Simple stuff, just like we did it previously. So I'm going to go to the list item, and now what I want to do, every time I click on this item, I want to run that prop and delete this particular item. So for this one, of course, I'm going to bring the touchable with opacity or the touchable highlight. Actually, you can choose right here. So I'm going to bring the touchable opacity, and I kind of like that one. So I'm going to grab this, and instead, actually, we could remove the view because we could use the touchable opacity as a wrapper. So open and close. And then inside, of course, we get the number. All right, so let me go here and make it a little bit better. Right, so of course, if we reload this, we pretty much get the same thing. Now what we need to do is we need to pass the properties of what's going to happen whenever we click on this. Now remember, we have the styles, and we could add styles to this. So styles dot, and remember it's list item. So I'm going to put it right here. Then we need to add the ID, the key. If not, we're going to get that warning we get at the bottom. So I'm going to say ID. If I reload it, we don't get a warning, and we are back to the same styles. Now we need to let the application know what's going to happen when we tap on this one or we press it. So we do the onPress equals open and close. So on this one, I'm just going to run a function. Then we're going to trigger the props and then delete. Right? All right. So I'm going to save it, going to reload it, and if I tap it, we get the props delete, and notice the opacity effect we get. Really simple stuff. Now what I want to do, I want to delete this item from the list of items we have on the state. So the first thing we need to know is we need to pass is which item we want to delete, which item on the array we want to delete. Since we are looping this, we have access to the index. So we can trigger this onPress and pass, the index, which is going to be the position we want to delete on the array. This is just JavaScript. All right, so this delete will get an argument. So in this case, it's going to be the position. So now, of course, if instead of alert delete, we alert the position, we will know which position we want to delete. All right? If I add more, whatever, we get the position number 6. All right. So the only thing we need to do is to grab this position, go to the state, and unset that value on the array, that position. Pretty simple stuff. I'm going to go here and say const, and I'm going to create a copy of new array. And I'm just, of course, doing this so we can practice what we know on something that works, right? Okay, so we're going to do this, that state, that random, and I'm going to do a filter. Why not? Open and close. So on each iteration, of course, we get an item, and I'm going to pass the index. And of course, we run some logic. Now the filter always needs to return something, and we will only return what is different to the position and the index we have. So we know the position, right? It's the number of the position we are tapping on. If that is different to the index of this loop, remember we are still looping random, of course, it will return it. All right, and that's it. Now what we're going to do, and again, this is just JavaScript. I'm going to do this, that set state, open and close, random, and we pass whatever we got on the new array. Right, so let's test it. I'm going to reload the application and add a few numbers, and if I tap it, there it goes. All right, so it really works. Really simple stuff. Okay, so we are pretty much done with touchable opacity. Of course, when we create an application and we do something, we are going to use the touchables the whole time. This is a pretty common component. Now, on the next one, we're going to talk about something completely different. We're going to talk about handling inputs, form inputs.